All right, everyone, get ready for a deep dive that takes us right to MotoGP. But this time, we're not on the racetrack.
Not this time.
No. We're going behind the scenes and checking out the launch event in Bangkok.
Oh, cool.
For the new BMW M5 Touring MotoGP Safety Car.
Nice.
I'm going to break down some serious horsepower and get into the tech. Are you ready?
Absolutely. And you know what's really interesting about this whole thing? MotoGP decided to have their first ever season launch outside of Europe in Bangkok.
Right.
It's pretty major. They chose Bangkok. I think it says a lot about the sport wanting to be global.
I was thinking the same thing, actually. It's such a vibrant city, Bangkok, full of energy. It really adds something special to the event. And they really went all out. There's this huge event for the fans. All the riders and teams were there. Yeah. I even heard they had a parade, and the new safety car led it.
You heard right. Can you imagine it, though? All those amazing bikes, the engines roaring, and leading the pack is the sleek, powerful M5 Touring.
Oh, yeah. Talk about sensory overload in the best possible way.
Yeah.
But, okay. Enough about the party. Let's actually talk about the car. I've got the specs right here, and let me tell you, this thing is a beast.
It really is a beast. Under the hood, we're looking at a V8 engine, and it's paired with an electric motor.
Wow.
Giving us a combined 727 horsepower and get this 1,000 Nm of torque.
Hold on a minute. 1,000 N of torque. I don't think I've ever driven anything with that much torque. It's starting to make sense why they call it a safety car. If it had to, this thing could probably tow the whole MotoGP grid.
I wouldn't recommend that, but you're totally right. This car is a powerhouse, and it needs to be. This isn't just some fancy car for a parade. It has to keep up with some of the fastest motorcycles in the world and in conditions that can be unpredictable.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not just about power, right? It must have some serious modifications to make it track ready.
Absolutely. Upgraded brakes, suspension aero tweaks for better handling at high speeds, and even a roll cage for safety. Those MotoGP bikes can hit speeds over 200 miles per hour, so the safety car needs to be right there with them, keeping the track clear and the riders safe.
This is way more than meets the eye, huh? It's like a lab on wheels for BMW's latest and greatest tech.
What a great way to put it. And while we're talking about the tech, did you notice the livery?
Yeah.
Bold colors, those graphics. It's like the same design language BMW uses for their hybrid race cars and other championships, like the FIA World Endurance Championship.
Wait, so the safety car looks just like their high-tech race cars. That's pretty cool, but why go to all that trouble? You just about aesthetics?
Well, it's definitely eye-catching, but there's a bigger picture here. By using this livery, BMW is visually linking their racing program and all of its cutting-edge tech to the cars that you and I might drive every day.
Oh, I see.
It's like saying, hey, look, the same innovation that wins races goes into the cars we build for you.
Now, that is clever. So it's not just looking cool. It's about BMW showing that they are committed to putting racing tech into their everyday cars.
Wow. This is all starting to make sense now.
Exactly. Which brings us to the big question. What does all this mean for the average driver? How do these high-tech safety cars actually affect the cars we drive on a daily basis?
Now, that's what I'm really curious about. I know there's all this talk about trickle-down technology,
right?
But how does it actually work in reality?
Well, one of the best examples is regenerative braking. You know how hybrid and electric cars can actually capture energy when you brake and then store it in the battery? Well, that tech was first developed for motorsports. Race cars need super strong brakes to handle those high speeds. Regenerative braking helps them do that and also makes them more efficient.
Wow, that's amazing. So something that started as a way to make race cars better is now a key feature in our everyday cars, making them more fuel efficient and better for the environment. Exactly. And it's not just regenerative braking either. It's things like traction control, anti-lock brakes, even those advanced materials like carbon fiber. All of them have roots in motorsports. You can think of the racetrack as like a testing ground where these technologies are pushed to their limits and perfected before they eventually end up in our street cars.
I'm seeing this safety car in a whole new light now. It's not just about keeping those MotoGP riders safe. It's like a window into what driving will be like for all of us in the future.
You got it. And the exciting thing is that this isn't slowing down. As hybrid and electric tech become even more common in motorsports, we can expect to see more and more innovations making their way from the track to the road.
Okay, color me impressed.
Yeah.
We've gone from the excitement of Bangkok to the hardcore tech in this incredible safety car. This deep dive has been great so far.
It has.
But before we go even deeper, I have to ask. You said this car is basically BMW showing off their latest tech. But let's be honest, some people might just say that's marketing hype. How can we be sure that this racing technology is actually going to make a real difference for people like us who drive every day?
That's a totally fair question, and it's one we should look into. There's no doubt that motorsports is a big part of how people see car brands, but the link between racing and road cars goes way beyond marketing. It's about pushing the limits of what's possible, and those innovations often have a ripple effect that goes way beyond the track.
Okay, you've got my attention now. Tell me more. Can you give us some real-world examples of how racing tech has actually led to benefits for everyday drivers?
Absolutely. Let's start with something you use all the time when you drive: anti-lock brakes.
Okay.
This life-saving technology actually came from the need to keep race cars from locking up their wheels during hard braking, which could cause them to spin out of control.
Yeah, that makes sense. So a technology that was first made to improve safety and performance on the track ended up becoming a standard feature that helps prevent accidents on normal roads.
Exactly. And it's not all about safety. Let's talk about fuel efficiency. Remember those aero tweaks we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, those same ideas about reducing drag are being used on road cars now to make them use less fuel.
That's pretty cool. So by looking at how air flows over a race car when it's going really fast, engineers can use that knowledge to design cars that are more aerodynamic and use less fuel.
Precisely. And this connection between racing and road cars is only going to get stronger as we all move towards a more sustainable future.
Okay, I'm convinced this is way more than just marketing hype. It shows how pushing the limits in motorsports can actually benefit all of us in the real world.
Exactly. And the coolest thing is this innovation goes both ways. Just as racing tech affects our everyday cars, advancements in regular cars can actually circle back and make motorsports even safer and even more exciting.
You're right, it's like a continuous loop of progress driven by everyone wanting to push boundaries.
Totally. And speaking of pushing boundaries, we haven't even talked about the impact of hybrid tech in motorsports. Remember that impressive powertrain in the BMW M5 Touring Safety Car?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just the beginning of the advancements happening in this area.
I'm all ears. Tell me more about how hybrid technology is shaping the future of motorsports and what that might mean for the cars we'll be driving down the road.
So you're saying this safety car is so powerful because of hybrid tech, and that same tech is changing motorsports. That's crazy. I have to admit, though, I don't really know how hybrids work in racing.
Okay, well, think of it like this. A hybrid race car is like a super athlete that can get this extra burst of energy whenever they need it.
Oh, okay.
They combine a regular combustion engine with an electric motor and a battery pack, and that's how these cars get such incredible performance and efficiency.
Okay, that makes sense. So the electric motor gives it an extra boost of power, kind of like a turbocharger, right? That's a good way to think about it. But there's more to it than just power. Hybrid systems also allow for things like regenerative braking. Remember we talked about that?
Right, the car captures energy when you brake and stores it.
Exactly. And in endurance racing, that's huge because efficiency can be just as important as how fast you can go.
I could see how that would completely change things. But let's get back to MotoGP for a sec. How does hybrid tech actually play into the role of the safety car?
Well, with a safety car, it's not just about keeping up with the pack. It's about being able to react super fast no matter what happens. That instant torque from an electric motor is a big advantage when the safety car needs to speed up quickly to control the race.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's not just about horsepower, it's about that instant response that helps keep the riders safe.
Exactly. And besides the performance stuff, hybrid tech also goes hand in hand with the whole sustainability thing that's becoming so important in motorsports.
You're right. It seems like everyone is trying to be more eco-friendly. And motorsports is no different.
Absolutely. And hybrid and electric race cars are a big part of making that happen.
So we've talked about how this tech is changing both race cars and regular cars. But what about the drivers? How are all these changes affecting the skills they need and what's expected of them?
Now, that is an interesting question, and it's something that's being discussed a lot in motorsports because with hybrid and electric powertrains, drivers have to change how they drive and their strategies.
I bet. It must be completely different from driving a regular car.
Oh, it is. For example, being able to manage energy use becomes a super important skill. Drivers need to know how to balance performance and efficiency, like knowing when to use that extra electric power and when to conserve it.
So it's almost like a game of strategy where you have to think ahead to use your energy the best way possible.
Exactly. And then there's regenerative braking, which adds another layer of complexity. Drivers have to figure out how to get the most energy back without messing up their braking.
Wow. It sounds like these hybrid race cars are pushing the limits of both tech and human skill.
They really are. And the amazing thing is that Everything we learn from racing these cars gets used to make better hybrid and electric cars for everyone.
So basically, the people who drive electric cars in the future will benefit from what these race car drivers are learning now.
That's right. And as electric vehicles become more and more common, those skills and all that knowledge are going to be really important.
Okay, so we've talked about the tech sustainability and how drivers are having to adapt. But there's one more group we need to talk about, the fans. How are they reacting to all these changes in motorsports?
That's a great question, and something that's caused a lot of debate among motorsports fans. Some are all for it. They're excited about the possibility of even more intense races with even better tech. Others are a little unsure. They're worried that those unique sounds and feelings of traditional motorsports might disappear with this shift to hybrid and electric powertrains.
I can see where both sides are coming from. Change can be exciting, but it can also make people nervous, especially when it's something they're passionate about.
Exactly. And the key is to find a balance between innovation and tradition, keep what makes motorsport special, but don't be afraid to try new things.
I think you nailed it. It's about evolving, not starting over completely. It's about making the sport better without losing what makes it unique. And speaking of evolving, I think it's time we change gears a little and talk about the future. We've discussed how racing tech impacts the cars we drive, but what about the other way around? How might things that are happening with consumer vehicles actually change how safety cars and even race cars are developed in the future?
That's a really interesting thought. It really is kind of cool to think about how much racing tech and everyday cars are blending together now. Like, you know how autonomous driving and all that connectivity stuff is everywhere now?
Yeah.
Well,
it's crazy.
It is crazy. Is it too out there to think that Schwinga could end up on racetracks? I mean, how would that even work?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not so crazy. Imagine safety cars that have even better sensors and communication systems than they do now, so they could react even faster to stuff happening off the track.
So the safety car could be even better at stopping accidents before they happen. That would be amazing for rider safety.
Exactly. And what if we used autonomous driving tech to make virtual safety cars for practices?
Oh.
So riders could push their limits, but in a safe way?
That's a cool idea, like a digital guardian angel on the track, making sure everyone's safe, but still letting them go all out.
Exactly. And think about what it could do for the fans. Imagine watching a race through VR or AR and seeing it all from the safety car driver's point of view.
Oh man, that would be so cool. Fans would feel like they're right there in the action.
It's all about pushing the limits and making things more exciting and engaging for everyone.
I love it. Okay, so just to go back over everything we've talked about, we've covered the excitement in Bangkok, the ins and outs of hybrid tech, and we even peeked into the future of motorsports. What a deep dive this has been.
It really has been a wild ride. And I think the biggest thing to remember is that motorsports are constantly changing. They're always trying to push the limits of what's possible with tech and with human skill.
And the coolest thing is all that doesn't just stay at the track. It actually affects the cars we drive and the way we experience the world.
Absolutely. So next time you're watching a MotoGP race and you see that BMW M5 Touring safety car, remember, it's not just there for safety, it's a sign of all the innovation and progress that's impacting everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we're going to wrap up our deep dive into MotoGP safety and the incredible BMW M5 Touring safety car. We'll be back soon with another awesome topic, so make sure you tune in for that.